Well, I'm with Ken Van Liew. He's a world-renowned authority on real estate investment and development, and he's completed more than $1.35 billion in development in New York City. He's an author, an educator, a professional engineer with advanced degrees from New York University and New Jersey Institute of Technology. And I hope you enjoyed my next guest, Ken Van Liew. Welcome. So glad you're here.
How are you? Thank you.
Very well. Yeah. So you are really a renowned expert on real estate, investment and development, and you also have a lot of passion for this. And why do you love helping people learn how to do this right?
You know, one of the reasons that really attracted me is that, I started with nothing, and I always wanted somebody to help me. And it took a while to figure out that mentors was really another word for shortcut.
Yeah. So what's your background when you say you started with nothing?
Well, from the sense of no money, no experience, not really having a network. My dad climbed telephone poles for a living. My mom was a bank teller. She was more of a networker than he, but, that really didn't transfer over into my network,
What was the first time that you really exposed to the idea of real estate?
It was funny because, I didn't really know, and I think most people have a similar situation, that what I was doing actually had a little something to do with real estate. I was originally a civil engineer, and I didn't really know at that time that had anything to do with land development. I was just sitting there trying to figure out how to put a catch basin in the right location, And then I got into construction, and I really didn't connect real estate investing with construction until a few years later, and that's kind of how it started before I reinvented myself. It was a little experience in the industry, not knowing that would ultimately relate to what I wanted to do one day, And I think a lot of people have that same instance where what they're doing today really could apply to real estate investing.
So can you remember, was there a certain aha moment where you went, went from construction to, wait a minute, there's something else here?
Yeah, when I finally found a book one day on syndication, it opened my eyes to real estate development and how larger deals were put together, and that's what kind of made me realize that there was a great opportunity in real estate investing. I didn't really know that someone like myself could do that, but there was a sentence in the book that basically said, a syndicator could be a builder, an accountant, an insurance agent, a banker, And I realized that, hey, this was my opportunity.
Yeah. Do you remember your first deal?
I do.
What was it?
It's funny because my wife still thinks I'm crazy to this day, but, I joined a country club to be around people with money. And in the fourth round, I started telling my story, and believe it or not, some guy commits $100,000 to invest with me. And I go home and I tell my wife, I want to quit my job and give this a shot, and she thought I was nuts. I was making, probably $15,000 a month. So $5,000 a month didn't sound that attractive to her. But I had a vision, and I took $25,000 of that original $100,000 and I bought a 12-acre site. We had an approval to build an assisted living facility, 72,000 square feet, 113 beds. And that was my first deal that I had moved forward.
And what do you know now that you wish you knew then during that deal? Because you've come a long way. What mistakes did you make back then that now the you now would say, do that differently next time?
Yeah, I think it was probably two primary beliefs that I had. One, that I needed money, and the second one, that I needed experience.
And are you saying you don't necessarily need either to get into the game?
You really don't. What I really found, and it was probably an aha moment or like this massive shift, was when I really said, as I was reading that book, that I could do it. It was that mental shift. It was that mental shift, a combination of a couple beliefs, like, I don't need money, I don't need experience, and I could do this here, real estate works where I live. Some people think like I can't do real estate investing because I live in the country, but real estate investing works anywhere. The value of real estate in America is $31.2 trillion. It's actually 1.5 the gross domestic product. I mean, it's just such an opportunity for people anywhere in the country.
And would it be true also at any age? Do you have to be of a certain age to start getting into real estate investing?
You really don't. I recommend, and one of my favorite magazines is College Investor Magazine, where they're training young students to get involved in real estate. And the reason is a quote that they just had in a recent magazine in December, which Andrew Carnegie stated 100 years ago, that 90% of all millionaires have become millionaires through real estate. So I personally tell people I can't really think of one reason why you wouldn't want to be in real estate,
And can real estate, let's say you're nearing retirement, and if you're looking at your retirement fund and you're like, not sure this is matching up here, and that's typically a point where a lot of the country gets into a place of anxiety, right?
Yes.
Is that an appropriate time to be willing to at least learn from you about, okay, this is possible, this is going to be a strong way you could spend your retirement years, is by investing and developing?
That's an excellent point, because one of the things that I was hoping to mention is about the epidemic in America, and 45% of all Americans are retiring with less than $10,000, and it's saddening at times, because I think that people, just based on the political climate, the society, they get stuck, and sometimes it's hard to figure out why, and, life gets in the way, et cetera. And, they need help.
Yeah. And you also know, I've heard enough of your story that you know what it is to look fear right in the eye. I think there was a time where you lost a lot of money and you had to get through that. You want to share that?
Yeah. It happened twice. And the first time we were celebrating after the assisted living project, we had invested a large sum of money into a waterfront development in Staten Island that looked out at the World Trade Center. I was in Hawaii celebrating with Tony Robbins, and we all know 911. Towers collapsed. That was my first loss of only $500,000, and we managed to get through that and support so many close friends, that lived. I lost my best friend that day, but I was blessed with many other things to give to people, The second time was in 2008 when we lost $325 million in one day. We were partners with Lehman Brothers, and the ship went down. And I thought I was having a heart attack that day when I heard it on the news. It reminded me of the Orson Welles story, if you remember, years ago, where they were kind of telling us that the world was coming to an end that day. And I essentially crawled into a ball and spent probably a year and a half trying to figure it out after that, really, really lost, and looked at a lot of different avenues until I realized that the grass wasn't necessarily greener on the other side of the fence. It was really greener where you watered it. And I was able to get my head screwed on straight again, and get back into real estate after considering never doing it again.
I can only imagine.
And here I am again to pay it forward and help people.
It's fantastic. So you really have a sense of mission behind the business.
I really do. I trained as an introduction leader years ago with landmark education. Not that I'm trying to pitch anything, but what it taught me is how to help transform people. And I realized that if I could use my drive and knowledge in real estate and inspire and motivate and transform people into their greatness, that would give me the most fulfillment in my life.
Yeah,
really,
and helping others too.
Yeah.
So let's pretend I'm walking with you. I've met you in New York City. We just had a nice lunch together, and I know that for the next 2 hours you're going to walk with me on the streets. And I'm a little skeptical. I like you, you're a great guy, and I'm sort of interested in real estate, and we're going to take a walk, and you're going to say or point to certain things that by the end of that walk, I'm going to be like, I think I want to do this. What might that walk look like?
Yeah, well, I would first, let you enjoy the skyline, because it's something that I'm proud of, and it's changed the landscape in New York, and it's generated a lot of jobs, and it's really about my contribution. And I think one of the points that I would say to you is it gives you an opportunity to do the same thing. You being involved in real estate and taking the approach of learning from the top down and realizing that there is tremendous opportunity, and I'm going to gain the sensory acuity initially on that opportunity, so I'm aware of it, and then I see it as it comes about, because there's so many times in life that people just have a blind spot. They don't see things. It's almost like when you're driving down the road and you go turn into the right lane, and that rear view mirror, not that rear view, that side view mirror, you kind of have that blind spot for a minute. In life, you have that same thing. So the first thing I would do in that walk is to kind of learn a little bit about what your goals are, and to help you eliminate any blind spots that you may have to see that goal very clearly for you. And I think that is what I found out in most cases to be 50% of the battle in anybody that wants to get in real estate. And that would really enlighten the walk further.
Yeah, it would get me excited to do it. So, you are a master at teaching how to invest and develop in real estate, but it seems to me you're also helping people develop their own lives and improve their lives. And given that you're an expert in skyscrapers, I think people are going to look up not only to you, but to their futures. So I really appreciate what you do.
Yeah, it's great that you say that because at one time, and I started it and it will be done shortly, it's called You Can Make It Happen. And it's a book that I'm writing, and it's the analogy of building an extraordinary life and how it simulates to building a high-rise, and it's just going to be a fascinating story. But I've taken what I learned in building a skyscraper and I've applied those principles in building an extraordinary life. And I try to pass that on to my people.
It's fantastic.
It's just so important,
Yeah.
that I have the opportunity to truly inspire them into their greatness,
Well, I think that's a great place to stop. I want to thank you so much for being with me today.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.